Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we ask ourselves if we're ready to ride off into the sunset. I'm Pete Mummert.
Hi, I'm Tom Taylor.
Gerald Christopher St. Bernardine of Siena.
Nice.
Protects against, yeah, it's a good one. She protects against hoarseness.
Well, it's better than hesitancy.
And I thought about, yeah, hoarseness. And I want to talk about a little rascal saint, right? Dear Bernadette of Siena.
Why is that a little rascal?
Please make it. I don't know. It's just you can see like somebody has to get like Spanky has to give a speech tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
He's gonna pray. Yeah, he's gonna pray
This
to
must be
Saint
my
Bernadette
lucky
of Siena.
day.
Yeah.
How did he die, by the way?
Hope Spanky?
No, Bernardino of Siena.
Oh, Bernadette. I think all those little rascals came to like
Poor ends.
horrible
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did.
Lots of loneliness and alcoholism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it
Let's put on a
was.
show.
I was just trying to make a burnt Siena joke.
Oh,
Lots
Pete,
of
that's
West
terrible.
Coast fires and alcoholism.
No, yeah, they all get the steak. A burnt sienna joke. God damn, Peter. You're really showing up with the A game at the end. Porter.
And fortunately, we're going to be riding off into the sunset with my favorite porter, Christy Porter. Welcome back, Christy.
Yay! Hi, guys. Especially Pete.
And today we're going to be talking about minute 120. Minute 120 begins with what I think is one of the greatest lines in movie history. Henry telling his son that he found Illumination. And it ends with Henry and Indy rehashing the story of poor Marcus getting lost in his own museum.
I was thinking while I was going to sleep last night, we were talking about the Grail Knight. And with this entire movie, the Grail Knight. Well, the Grail Knight says, the Grail Knight. What the hell's the Grail Knight's name? Like Mortimer?
That's a good question.
Heathcote?
You would think that'd be written down somewhere.
Yeah.
What's his name?
think.
And I'm dying to know, like in the credits, does it say Grail Knight?
Oh.
We'll find out
We'll have to
next
wait.
week.
See.
Was one of the guys named Robert? Am I making that up?
There was Sir Richard in the
Oh,
catacombs.
Sir Richard. That's right. Sir Richard.
Yes, there was Sir
Yeah.
Richard.
Now he gets a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
you know that guy's
I
name?
like
He must know
Mortimer.
the
I think
name of the
Mortimer's
guy.
pretty good.
Sir Mortimer.
Yeah, Mortimer. Yeah.
Do we know the other two brothers' names? The two that left the markers all over the place?
Well, Sir Richard was one of them that left the
Oh,
marker.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh.
So that's, I mean, is he, the guy's just referenced as Grail Knight?
Yeah.
Gosh, no wonder you stayed up, Jerry.
He's the
Couldn't
job.
sleep.
What kind of Richard takes the only name?
What a Richard move.
Well, I feel like saying, yeah, it's that. It even gets a little sadder the next day when everybody's like, yeah, what was that guy's name? Whatever.
He was old and he fell
Yeah,
down.
there's that old guy. He was wearing a whole bunch of steel. Yeah, whatever. I don't remember.
Fell out of good at
800 years. Yeah, whatever.
Mortimer.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys have had some issues with this movie. Definitely quite a few more than I have. But does your heart ever not race when you hear the Raiders March start to swell in like this?
Oh, it's always fun.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Although it feels like they just dropped the needle on the record or something, doesn't it? A little bit. Like it comes like Henry says his line about Illumination,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's one theme going on, and then it's like the kind of it. Listening to it now, it felt like it was kind of not exactly a smooth transition. It just sort of like leaps in there.
Well, you know what's interesting about this version, or as it's played here, and I think it's brilliant, is they start the Raiders March. We get the intro, which is that was a terrible rendition, Tommy. It's more like dun 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 bum bum, and you're expecting the huge fanfare, but no, And does he give it to him?
No.
No. The Daffy Duck reference. But actually, what the song does do is it plays the B section
Yeah.
before the Raiders fanfare
Yeah.
march, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It goes right. It starts with the bump, da da dun dun, and then it goes dun da da.
Yeah, that's true.
Bump da da da, and you're like, that's amazing because it builds tension, and it doesn't give away the money hook. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It
that's
kind of
It's the casual
you'll-
horse climbing section of the song.
That's correct.
Yes, that's absolutely right. The casual. That's what we call the Grossman trot.
You're gonna get the Grossman trots if you eat that whole sandwich, Grossman.
Yuck.
Sorry. Okay, but Pete, wait, we're skipping right past Pete's favorite line in the whole movie, and
Yeah.
apparently in all of cinema.
One
And I
of.
will admit that I need it explained to me.
I definitely need it explained.
Oh, good. Thank God.
I did a little work. I'm with you, Pete.
Well, I don't.
I did a little. Wouldn't you guys do a little work? I got
It
it.
seems to me sort of self-explanatory. Like he found.
Well, then explain it to myself.
Well, he found answers to the questions he had. Like he found what was important. He found, a light shone through, and he saw that what he was looking for was in front of him all along, and not what he thought it was.
Okay, that's about what I got.
Yeah.
No, I
Okay.
totally didn't get that.
Although when you put it that way, wouldn't it be nice if he kind of like, I don't know, embraced his son in that moment or something? Like, I found illumination.
They've already had been a little lovey-dovey. It would just get kind of weird.
Or
if
like a
they're all
hand on the
mouth, they're all,
shoulder or
like,
something. Just something to
like
like
hugging,
kind of...
hugging on each other all the time, and I don't know.
I don't know. I
Your
hate
tongue
to
out
I
of
love
disagree.
you, Dad. I love you more. I love you more. No, you hang up, Dad. No, you hang up, son.
I love you infinity times 7.
I love you eternally because we both drank from the cup.
We're cup buddies. No, but like, yeah, illumination, you kind of get that, like, oh, he's been searching for this thing his whole life, and now he, has held it, he's drank from it, he's been healed by it, he met a knight and everything, but then, yeah, the way you said it, yeah, illumination, there is that element to it that, like, oh, illumination, that, like, what I really was searching for was, right in front of me, like something I've been pushing away my whole life or whatever. But, like, I've seen the movie dozens of times, I never quite got that angle to it until you just said it. So it would have been nice for like a little, like a chin chuck or something, a little something, just to kind of like to connect Indy to what he's saying.
But it's also, I think, incredibly gutsy, because in a giant budget action movie, what giant budget action movie doesn't end with someone walking away with a treasure, but the treasure ends up being something like this, like something intangible?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, he walks away with it. He actually walks away with it in
I've
Raiders
heard
of
of
the
that.
Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Off screen.
But this is like, it's like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it'd be if he, or Temple of Doom, he'd realize that the treasure was short round or something. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. Oh. Well, I had, look, I thought Henry says me, illumination. And I thought, okay, is that a nod? Is that a nod to illuminated manuscripts?
Oh, yeah.
I thought
You
that
know.
too.
Well, I think he's
Yeah.
referencing them.
Yeah, and which is awesome, and I love that. And I actually looked up the definition of illumination, and it's, quote, spiritual or intellectual enlightenment. And I think, having both of those makes perfect sense for Henry.
Yeah.
Because he is religious and he's also an intellectual. So it's a very Buddhist, very Buddhist way, which of course you love, Pete. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about the end of one of our favorite books the other day, Siddhartha, where he kind of attains this enlightenment at the end. And I think the end of this and illumination definitely models that. And it's interesting because like at Siddhartha, there's Siddhartha sees death and destruction, and he also sees love, and he also sees family. He sees all things coming together. Right?
And it took seeing, both sides of the coin for him to realize that it was the same coin.
Right. Which is it is that type of moment here at the end with Henry. I mean, we have the death and destruction of the temple and all sorts of, We have a very, very sad Mortimer.
Very
Yeah,
sad.
and it's like a literal, like the literal definition of illumination is like flipping a light switch. It's like he flipped a switch and suddenly everything makes sense.
I'm not entirely buying it. Sorry.
Okay. Oh,
I think.
interesting.
Well, I'm sorry, but so
that's
I
okay.
like
What
that
do
it's.
you think it's a shortcut?
You're
Yeah.
allowed to be negative, Christy.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not though. But really, I'm just saying I don't understand. That's all I'm saying. It makes sense the way you're explaining it, and I think that it's a very well chosen word, illumination. It's great. It means what Jer said it means, and it calls to mind the manuscripts, which makes sense. But I'm the same way I don't understand why Henry is not paying much attention to Elsa. I'm not feeling great changes or love between Henry and Indy either. I know I'm supposed to,
Yeah.
but I'm not really getting all of that. That's why I like your explanation. But I probably need at least another minute or a chin chuck, like Tommy said.
Yeah.
And in fact, they fall into like one of their oldest arguments almost immediately. The whole junior
Yeah.
Well, that was a question I had. Do they continue this newfound loving relationship for the rest of their lives, or do they immediately fall back into bad habits and like a month from now they'll just be back where they were at the start?
thing.
Well, does that
Yeah.
make you like Henry better?
Wow, does what make me like it better?
Well, if he's come through this whole story and he has found illumination and he knows what's important, does it make him a more likable character, or is that irrelevant?
No, I think it makes him definitely a more likable character because he's kind of put aside what he thought was his, this obsession he had for his whole life of acquiring this relic. And it's become, it's not what I thought it was about at all.
Well, that's real brave of him. I mean, he probably should be kind of regretful or remorseful that he wasted a whole life that way. I would be.
It's a very good point. Yeah.
I'd be kind of like a
Well,
little puddle on the ground.
But that's the difference between that would be the Catholic viewpoint of the ending.
Right.
Regret and guilt
Yep.
versus the Buddhist
Illumination.
view of the ending, which is being present and grateful
Yeah.
And filled with light. All right.
and filled with light and being what's interesting is Henry calls Indy Junior, and does he do that on purpose? Like he says, "And what did you find, Junior?"
He just calls him Junior. I think that's his.
I think, that's
who he is.
so he kind of slips back into it, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it with purpose
Right.
now.
But his son,
Right.
Indy starts off by pointing his finger at him, like, Dad. But then he kind of is like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, I love you. I don't hate you anymore.
Yeah.
But if Sala hadn't interrupted, would Indy just go berserk on Henry? Like, Dad, we just had this moment in the thing, and now you're calling me Junior again. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
or what do you do? He'd now, because it's the Last Crusade, he'd do the "Hiya," the lower one.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? What's fascinating is I thought, okay, so what's Indy's answer?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
never
And he
get
does
it.
it, and
No,
then
never get it.
and I thought this is what's interesting. I'm not sure Indiana Jones thinks on that deep level, which is why he is who he is. Like he's emotionally aloof, bordering on callous and unreachable.
Yeah.
But he's unhesitating in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the fact that we don't get the answer of what he learned here is perfect for who Indiana Jones is.
Yeah.
He just
I like
doesn't
that.
really
Yeah.
think about the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am
like
not
he even
sure
like
I agree with that.
well, at the very end, even like Henry is staring at the night, like, "Oh my God!" And he's like, "Yeah, come on now." I mean, he makes those quick decisions, and we need a guy like that.
Sure.
like, Chris, our Uncle Nels, who was a priest, used to say that.
We need a guy on
on that. Yeah, so we do when we're traveling in the Indiana Jones world and the Indiana Jones posse, we do need a guy who's at least not hesitating in moments of danger and peril.
Okay, but you know
he
what?
doesn't think; he just goes.
But he's the hero of the movie. He's the main character of the movie, and we don't get to find out what he's gotten out of this whole adventure. Like we don't get like how he may have changed or anything. I'm not
what's
saying like he needs to
fantastic-
say. I don't think he needs to have his like Henry moment to be like, I found whatever my purpose, whatever
I love Austrian goodbyes.
Yeah, I love Austrian goodbyes. They're way underrated. I think they're fantastic. I don't. But you know what? What bugs me is it makes just right now as we're talking about this, I'm questioning if he's even the main character of the movie.
What?
Because he is going through the entire
Heresy.
thing. He's kind of just sort of dragged along in the whole thing. He's like, oh, I got to go get my dad, and like, I mean, it's about his dad kind of, and it's not like he doesn't care about the Grail. He doesn't really care what happens to the Grail. He just wants to connect with his dad, and I guess he does. I mean, yeah, he obviously does, but there's like an element there at the end where it's like, wow, if he's totally untouched by all this stuff and unfazed by like meeting a 100-year-old knight and holding the Holy Grail and reconnecting with his dad and everything, it seems like he almost is fading into like James Bond territory where the guy's like almost not a character. He's just a guy who does all this stuff.
Interesting.
Like, yes, it's cool that he's the man of action and that he can get stuff done and that he can fall down and succeed and everything and stuff. But it'd be nice if he's a little bit more than that.
Well, see, I think I'm the first person to trip this movie and punch it whenever, whenever it's necessary. But in this case, I think it's fine that Indy doesn't answer because I think it's consistent with who he is in the movie. This is his father's quest.
Yeah.
Indy has never really been invested in the Holy Grail from the beginning.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
They, but it's interesting the choice they make, a few minutes ago, because all of a sudden he's like, I can reach it.
Well,
And you're like, okay, what sort of power does the Grail have over Indy? Because he hasn't cared about it at all until this 6 seconds in the movie. So, but I do think it's fine. It isn't really his quest, and although he's the main character, it is much less about him.
So, Tommy, does that make you like him a little less?
It doesn't make me like him less, but I think it's a weird way to treat him throughout this entire movie. The fact that he is uninvested in the actual physical MacGuffin quest is a little weird. Like when you get by the time you get to the end of the movie, it feels like he's just been sort of like half of the movie for him has been an afterthought. Like he's just been trying to get to his dad, which is valid. He's trying to get to his dad. He's trying to save him. That's obviously more important than something that he might not even believe in. But then like they try to bring in all this stuff at the end about like, what do you believe? Do you have faith in this stuff? Like, and at the end, it's like, you kind of want to, I don't want him to like, have the Chips moment of like, well, this is what I learned about myself in this last few days of this adventure. But it is sort of weird that we don't get his any sense of what he really did actually go through.
Well, that
from his point of view
brings up a question for me. Is Indy guilty of always dreaming too small on his own? Because when we see what he's going after because of his own desire, it's the fertility idol, it's Nurhachi's ashes, it's the cross of Coronado. It's always somebody else that asks him to go after the big ticket items. The Ark of the Covenant.
But he's
the
excited
Sankara
about
stones.
the Ark. He wants to go after the Ark.
He is,
though.
but that wasn't his. He wasn't the one that came up with the idea, or that this is. I mean, he said this was Abner's. This was the guy on the train's idea. This wasn't mine.
Don't say that.
Pete, I love that, Pete. He's a 2-bit archaeologist.
He is, and he's always along for the ride.
It's a ticket to Marrakesh. He can get $2,000 for
Okay, but do you want that from like the main
I
character
don't
of your
want
story
that.
for him to not really care what's going on?
Well, I don't think he
but you
doesn't
know what
care. I just think he's.
What I like about this is he has to get the Grail to save his dad's life.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. He's not getting it,
Yeah, it's not going to Marrakesh.
He's not, and it's he's not. I mean, he's not getting it for the Marshall College 4th floor geology building museum.
Yeah. Okay, but you know what though? The effect of that is that I care less about the Grail throughout the movie. Like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, I didn't know anything about the Ark of the Covenant going in, but I was like, oh my God, that thing's incredible. Everybody on Earth wants to get at this thing. Indiana Jones wants to get this thing, and then it unleashes all this crazy power. And even before that, you're just like, geez, this thing is insane. This thing is something to get.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Temple of Doom, we had these rocks that nobody really knew what to do with.
It's true.
And it was like all muddled with like, okay, maybe he's there to save kids, but he doesn't really seem to be into that either until the end. And so this is a step up from that, but it's still a little. I think I need Indiana Jones to be excited about what he's going after, and not just have it be. I mean, if it is about saving his dad, maybe cut out the whole Grail business or something, because it's like. Let it be a rescue story or something.
But then he's not an archaeologist anymore. He's he's an action hero.
Well, that's okay. I mean, he's barely an archaeologist anymore.
You know what's kind of tough about the whole movie is what Indy is most excited about is Venice.
Oh.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, who isn't?
It is, and it was. No, it's true. But what's tough about that is. Even that's like super, like flaccid and wet noodly. He's just they don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
As a plot line, he and Elsa are just like, but when we first see him, that's like the thing that he's most excited about. He just jumps right off the boat and runs up the dock, and he's like, "Hey, my mother's ears." So I mean. It's just that's what he's most excited about throughout the entire movie. Naturally, like just organically, as Indiana Jones walking in. Because you're right, he's not into the Grail.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I mean, maybe the Cross of Coronado. The Cross of Coronado, he's way into the Cross of Coronado.
Mm-hmm.
He really is.
Yeah,
well, River was. Anyway.
Yeah. And he is at the very end off the coast of Portugal.
He was really into the fertility idol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was really into Murohachi's
but...
ashes. Like, it's always the little things that he's really into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he just has the small dreams.
I like that. That's really good.
That.
He likes the chase, though. He likes the hunt, and here he doesn't care about the hunt.
Well, let's be clear. He's not exactly at Oxford, Pete. He's at Marshall.
Right.
Or Barnett.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have tenure at Harvard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe they just save that for
That's
those
true.
guys. The arc is for the Ivy League types.
Yeah, he never made it to Connecticut.
Anywho,
I was throwing you a
Hey,
bone there, kind of, Tom.
I love that. I love that. Hey, Sala's wearing a fez still. Is that in memoriam to Chasm?
this is in defiance of Indy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was wearing that before.
Well, Indy made him take it off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, hats have a way of coming back and sticking on
true.
and
They do.
showing up,
Yeah, it's true.
rolling
That's true.
around.
Yeah, is Sala the man with the hat in his story?
Yeah. The man with his own hat.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, when Henry dons that Lawrence of Arabia headwear,
Uh-huh.
I thought, okay, so where's his bucket hat? And I thought, okay, look, Henry is metamorphosized. Now he's not afraid to be out in the world. He's out of the stacks and the cubicles.
Oh, nice.
He's a true field worm
Yeah.
who dons protection because he's now a man of action outside under the dangerous desert sun.
Yeah.
Without an umbrella.
Yeah, and
Oh, right.
and
You could
you
use
know
that
what
now.
he's doing? He's without an umbrella. Brilliant. And he's making it up as he goes along.
Yeah, he's fashioning his
He
own
takes
headpiece.
out
Yeah.
like a little
Yeah.
a little sheet or whatever, a little scarf, and he just
Yeah.
wraps his head. And you know what he does? He blends in with the locals.
Yeah.
No longer does he have this
Oh,
tweed
how about
bucket hat.
Yeah.
That wasn't blending too much now.
Hey, let's talk about the fact that Indiana Jones is named after the dog. Because this is watching this for discussing it here was the first time it ever struck me that this is very, very strange.
Yeah. Well, Henry says, we named the dog Indiana.
Yeah.
And is we mom and dad? Is we Henry and Indy?
I always sort of assumed it was like either the mom and dad or maybe the whole family, like, hey, we got a dog, let's name it, kind of thing. Or we, like me and George Lucas, like, because he's got that dog Indiana who's actually
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on where Chewbacca comes from.
Or maybe Indiana's the last connection Indy had with his mom.
Oh, maybe.
Mm.
What's weird is for some reason I always got the impression that he loved that dog Indiana, and then the dog died and he went off to like college or someplace where nobody knew him yet, and he's like, hey, my name's Indiana. Like, he loved the dog so much that he took the dog.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if we assume that dog is the one that we see in the beginning of the movie, like that dog is alive and around, and they're already calling him Indiana, or at least his friends are,
That's like,
which seems super weird to me.
That's really,
that's pretty
I don't
weird.
get, like I can't picture. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
like your dog's name Indiana. You're like, hey, that's my name too.
yeah. I love this. Like I've never loved anybody so much that I just wanted to take their name, like a human or a dog or anything.
well, you think maybe it has to do with one of those John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith things.
Huh?
His name is my name.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, my friend Tarkin, with a QU, not a K.
Uh-huh.
He just saw his name is not Tarkin. His name is James, and he saw like some like I don't know, British politician or something on TV, and his name was Tarkin. He's like, oh, I like the name Tarkin. I think everyone should call me Tarkin now, and everyone did. Like his entire family, everybody calls him Tarkin. I met him as Tarkin, so I always call him Tarkin. But I guess people can do that, but to do it like as a kid,
yeah, but that's
to a
kind
dog,
of like
Yeah.
Jer, calling himself what would be our first family pet, Jer?
Little Boots.
Little bit. No, he's always been
Porgs.
He's always been good. Logan.
Yeah. Porgs. Porgs. Our first pet was Porgs. So if I just took the name Porgs,
Yeah.
Right.
here's the weird
Hey, do
thing
you feed
about
porgs?
that. It doesn't
Like-
make
I'm 15
See,
years
what's
old. I
weird
can feed
is-
myself. Don't worry about it.
being in entertainment in Los Angeles. It's a lot like that all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a party and you ask somebody and you're like, oh hey, how's it going? What's your name? And they're like, Flash. And you're like, come on, and you're waiting for a break or somebody to go, hoo, 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 and
Yeah.
they don't. And what their name? You're like Stickler.
Oh, okay.
You're like,
Hydrogen.
this dude's dead serious.
Waldorf.
Like he's dead serious. He's not, like I know a drummer, and the guy's name is Max Bangwell, and he goes by that. By the way, he's a dope drummer. He doesn't play a lick after 1957. That's kind of his whole thing. He plays a lot of old time blues, and he goes by Max Bangwell. I'm like, he didn't, I guarantee that's not on his birth certificate. So you
And I
meet a
guarantee
lot
you people are
of
laughing at you behind your back.
But here, like maybe somebody else gave them it, because when I was in high school, I moved to a new high school, a new city, a new state, halfway through my junior year of high school, and the first day, or I guess it was the first day, I'm sitting there in homeroom, and I'm talking to the kid next to me, and I'm telling him how much I love Stanford and Son. Like that was growing up my favorite TV show of all time. And so then the teacher starts reading off all the names, like to take attendance, and he gets to my name, and the kid next to me goes, actually, I prefer to be called Fred. And so from that point on, the teacher and I didn't say anything. I just thought it was kind of funny. And then from that point on, everyone in the high school thought my name was Fred. And so for 2
Wow.
years, that's all anybody called me.
That's awesome.
Wow. You never bothered to correct them.
Yeah.
Maybe Henry was so absent-minded, he just started calling his son the
Yeah.
dog's name.
Yeah.
And then it stuck, and Henry.
And then Henry's like,
Indiana
oh,
Jones
he's
went
thought
away.
of me. He came up with a name for me. I like the name Indiana.
Yeah,
That's
you know
funny.
what's weird
That's sad.
about it is Indy says I have very fond memories of that dog, but I can't tell if he's being sarcastic.
Yeah, he's got a weird
Oh, no, I
expression
always
when he
thought
says that.
I always thought that was sincere.
Sincere?
Like,
Yeah,
I love that
I thought so
dog, and
too.
don't
Yeah.
laugh at me for loving that dog.
Yeah, in the script it says Indy embarrassed when he says that.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that he's kind of like, shut up, you guys. I love that dog.
This is a very, very schizophrenic minute for me.
Uh-huh.
Because this is Salah's best moment in the movie.
Why?
Is it?
And I think so. Hands down. This is Salah is amazing in this. He's like named after the dog. And you're like, yeah, that's great. That's what I imagine. Like Salah, he's like
That laugh was so
jocular.
creepy,
Yeah, really.
Huh?
That laugh was so creepy you just did.
You're no Sala.
It's a little Scooby Doo.
He's like really fun. It's great. And he's having a blast, and he finds out something about his good friend Indy, and he kind of makes fun of him, and I love it. And then yet we have, in the same minute, a few seconds later, we have this depressing Marcus thing
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like, oh. And
Look at 'em go.
and Marcus, yeah. You know what I do? You know what really is sad? It's actually it's heartbreaking that Marcus says, "Indy, Henry, follow me," and you're like, "There's no Sala. There wasn't Indy, Henry, Sala, follow me."
Yeah.
There's not everybody.
Yeah.
Follow me,
Yeah.
He forgot.
gents. Yes,
He
everyone. I
forgot
know
he
the
was Saul
way.
was there. He's-
It's
That's
awful.
what dementia does.
And they just he says Indy, Henry, follow me, and you're like, way to be divisive, Marcus.
Or maybe you figure Sala already knows the way to go because he's awesome and he's Sala. Maybe not.
And wearing a fez.
Yeah,
It's sad.
It's
It's
just
sad.
it's
It's
a
all
very
sad.
it's a strange choice.
he must be suffering from dementia at this point, though, because
Yeah, he doesn't know
he's
Sala's
just
there.
witnessed the power of God. Like his faith has been confirmed right in front of his very eyes, and his first thought is, "May we go home now, please?"
Yeah,
It's
with
just-
chocolate.
Like I've tried my best to defend Marcus during this movie, but I can't defend him here. Like this is just
No, it's tough.
this is bad.
And you know what? It's not even defending Marcus. It's defending the movie. Like if this was supposed to be, and for a long time was, the last Indiana Jones movie, and it would have the last thing they did in the movie would have been making fun of Marcus. That's how Indiana
Yeah,
Jones and the Last
unfortunate.
Crusade basically ends.
That's actually
Yeah.
It's like the last bit of dialogue is making fun of Marcus.
it just sounds like
Kind of
it.
mean.
The last thing just infuriates you, Tom.
Well, yeah. Thanks, movie. I was trying to have fun. Yes, fun.
No, you're not.
You lousy sons of bitches.
Well, I don't think too many of us like that Marcus track. Making fun of Marcus.
Yeah.
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 No.
I've liked Marcus in a lot of this movie, but I don't like him right here.
No.
Wow,
That's not his
Pete,
fault.
it
It's
really
the
got
movie's
you.
doing
So
it to
why-
him.
wait-
Marcus is a victim in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, he is.
Poor
but Pete,
Marcus.
what don't you like about it? How come this isn't funny? He almost falls off his horse.
Yeah, Pete. You like when things fall
Yeah.
down and people act dumb.
Yeah.
Dance, man, dance, dance, boy, dance, dance.
You know what's funny? I've been listening to a book about the Comanche Nation, and one of the hallmarks that set them apart from the Union soldiers and the other Plains Indians was that they rode horses into battle. And the way they rode horses into battle is they would kind of clip one heel over the top of the horse and ride alongside the horse to use the horse as
Oh.
a shield. And that's exactly how
God.
Marcus rides out of the canyon. Which is awesome.
It
It's
is,
like,
actually.
he's displaying like very deft horsemanship here.
Maybe this is like a kind of I meant to do that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Unless he's
Maybe.
expecting Union soldiers, in which case we're back to demented.
He might be. Yeah, he might
That's it.
actually.
Shoot.
Well, what is it that you don't like here, Pete?
He just seems a little cartoony.
Okay.
Like even for me.
Oh, I
that's
would
just-
hate it if things got cartoony in this movie. I wouldn't stand for it. I'd be right out the door.
I will say this. It is, he does say, "Can we go home now?" And it's a terrible line for Marcus, but it's a great line if you put a Charlie around
Yeah.
it. That's a
$3,000
great
buys a
Jaws
lot
quote.
of grails. Get your feet out of the cave.
Swim, Marcus, swim.
Aw.
Does Henry
Pull
not
it
know
back.
the story of Marcus getting lost in his own museum?
I don't like I
Because that's the last line of the minute where he says,
oh
"Got
it
lost in his
really
own
is.
museum, huh?"
Yeah.
Like Indy said
Is
that
it- wait a
back at the
minute.
castle. He said like, that come on, he said like, Marcus, he got lost in his own
Yeah, that's
museum
true.
once.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it seems like Henry would. I mean, that whole thing was confusing at the time, like because Henry was then taken in by Indy's ruse. He's like, "Oh, you said Marcus was going to be totally set and blend in and be awesome and everything."
yeah.
Like he knows that Marcus is a goof, but he also believed Indy when he said that he wasn't a goof. But now he knows that he's a. I don't know. Everyone be nice to
I
Marcus.
think we're all.
Marcus is
I think
cooler
we're
than
all
all of you.
super tired too. I think
Yeah,
we're having a
we're all
hard
getting heat
time.
stroke. I'm writing side
Yeah.
saddle out of here.
These I'm rewriting sides. These last two movies have been dizzying.
Well, wait.
That's
Before you
fair.
get to that,
Yeah.
I want to ask Pete in particular.
Okay.
The four horsemen riding out.
Mm-hmm.
Symbol.
Ooh.
Hmm.
You mean the ones of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
There
Or
was
the
a-
horse-
Are there other horsemen?
Or the other horsemen of the
Southampton-
four horses of Venice. They could be the four horses that the Venetians
Ooh.
stole from Constantinople.
Wow.
That's a good question, though. I hadn't gotten that far yet.
Well,
Four
we're just
Horsemen,
about
the
them
sun.
riding out of the canyon.
Yeah.
So
I like that. That's really
Yeah.
good.
I got to
It's
think
Yeah,
about that.
blasted
the
above
movie.
St. Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and destruction of the temple behind and such.
Yeah, yeah.
Man.
That's good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, every once in a while, Jer, I'll surprise you as I wander around my museum.
Plague or famine or warfare or what is Marcus?
Oh,
Oh wow.
Oh, he's
He's
yeah, flaccid.
Buffoonery.
You know,
The buffoonery
yeah.
of the apocalypse.
He's impotent.
oh, so
Poor
sad.
guy.
Well, let me ask you this: if you came back to this crescent of the canyon moon, say next Tuesday,
Uh-huh.
what would be left of the temple? Would it just all be rubble?
No,
You think the facade would still be there?
yes,
I don't know.
I think so.
It would.
Mhm.
So if you walked in, you just wouldn't really know what it was, and you'd be like, "Oh, something happened here." Whatever.
It'd actually probably look about exactly like it does today. It'd just be like a tiny
Yeah.
little room in there you'd walk into.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that'd be okay with me.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying last time. Like, if Henry and Indiana Jones could be like, hey, everybody, we know where the Grail if anyone's interested, we know exactly where the Grail is, the Holy Grail,
Mm-hmm.
the Cup of Christ. It's right over here. You have to dig. You have to go through a bunch of rubble. I don't know how far down it is, but you'll find it. You'll get it.
yeah.
Just keep at it.
But they didn't.
It's in this really pretty cave.
Well, maybe Hitler sent bombers to bomb the site into rubble, so no one else would find it.
Oh, maybe.
Like I can't figure out why they wouldn't just come back or send somebody back.
Yeah. Or why they're not just digging right now.
Yeah.
I think all the Nazis, as we said a few days ago, they're all transformed.
Mm-hmm.
I think
They've
all
seen
the
a lot.
Nazis that were there, they put down their rifles and they joined Habitat for
Yeah,
Humanity.
I think so too. Like the Peace Corps. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're out doing good.
I'm not sure you have a lot of
Hey,
evidence for that. I mean, I know the ending was rushed, but I think that's.
It's
Well,
the
what
evidence of
about
his heart.
your Highness? Does he know about what happens?
Oh.
You know, your Highness from the Republic of Hatay.
Yeah.
Well,
a bunch
that
of his
one soldier
soldiers
did.
bolted.
Yeah, that one. They
Yeah.
probably ran back and told him. But does anybody from the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword know, or are they all dead anyway?
Oh, that's a
Oh.
good question.
Oh, they're going to be
Oh,
pissed.
yeah.
They are going to be
Yeah.
totally pissed.
Yeah, you guys are going
They
to have to take
are.
a bowling or something. You need a new hobby.
But yeah, so for 1,000 years, they've been protecting that knight and that temple and that grail, and again, for
Yep.
nothing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Butterfingers over here can just drop it in a hole.
It's true. It's crazy. Well, so if Elsa doesn't try and cross the seal, then does everybody just stay there? I wondered, is the night like? I always knew it was going to end like this, with some jackass trying to cross the seal.
No, he says he was expecting him for some reason.
That's true.
Well,
Yeah.
no, he talks about but that's Indy. I mean, but Elsa really ruins the whole thing. Like there aren't any
Yeah.
problems until Elsa gets all grubby mitty.
Mm-hmm.
So would Indy just have left it there and been like, all right, thanks, man? And they just kind of all walk out and everyone's fine and everyone kind of goes home and the temple resets?
Or do you? Yeah, or I have no idea. Like, do you need the destruction and the danger for Henry to know that he indeed has a son?
Well, because if they don't, then Henry's...
And he might even love his son.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if they might both have second thoughts if the temple isn't destroyed as they're riding away. Like they might,
Oh,
one of them
wow.
might just turn around and start riding back.
Yeah, and then they have to pray for St. Joseph's intercession.
Sure.
Yeah, hesitation.
So-
No, you're right.
So
I
if
don't,
Elsa
I don't know
hadn't
if they
dropped
could.
it, if
Uh-huh.
Elsa hadn't, if Elton hadn't been there and they had found it for some reason, so then what would they have done with it?
I guess just leave it there on the ground.
And not take it over the seal?
Yeah, not take it over the seal because they kind of just left it lying on the ground and they looked like they were
Yeah.
getting ready to
Yeah.
pack up and leave.
Yeah, I've had my sip.
It's
Let's go.
But why wouldn't they have
Yeah.
stopped to talk to the knight? Like, why wouldn't they have had like
I
a
don't know.
We still
two-week
don't know.
conversation with him?
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering, did the knight if the knight said that he was expecting him, like, why would he have been expecting him? And is this misidentification? A case of, I needed glasses like 750 years ago, and I think I know who you are, but really I don't.
Yeah. I think anyone that walked into you would have said, "Oh,
I've been expecting you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
He's been practicing that line for 600 years.
Now, first I'll just sneak up on the guy, and then I'll.
I could totally see if they put like a little stone outside of the Temple Grail and it said like Marshall College Archaeology Extension.
Yes, of course.
And they just try and incorporate it as like a satellite campus.
That's
for
right.
Marshall College Archaeology.
Yeah.
They know they can't take it.
Yeah.
But Indy's they can't take the Grail, so they're not gonna let it go. I think they just sort of set up the classroom maybe in that cave or something.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That would be the greatest classroom on earth, though. Like, you could just come and talk to this guy. Like, every medieval scholar could just come and find out the answer to every question she's ever had.
Although it blows is that he's just been in a cave for most of the time, so it's not like he knows anything about like
That's
the
true.
20s or the teens or the 1800s
Right,
or
no,
the
it's true.
1700s. Or the,
Yeah. And I wonder if he's like started to make stories up in his mind, so you can't really trust what he's saying anyway.
Well,
Like
here's a
after
different
800 years.
question.
And
Why
then
on
I
earth?
invented the light bulb.
Why no, there's no light bulb. So why on earth was he? Actually, how do they light that room?
There are fires everywhere.
Power
Okay.
god or something.
Based
Yeah.
on what kind of wood or oil?
Maybe that's why I think we were saying that's why it's a desert now. Like he.
Oh, I
No,
see.
didn't you ever read that? There's that whole story of Hanukkah where the lights burn.
Yeah, I'm
for-
aware.
Yeah.
what was it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been 800
Yeah.
years.
Yahweh can do that. He's got special candles and oil.
Okay.
He can make that
Well,
stuff. burn
different question
forever.
then. Why was Mortimer speaking contemporary English?
You have to listen to
Yeah.
last Friday's episode.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't here last Friday.
Oh, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's fair.
That's a very
Yeah.
good question.
Does it have something to do with the fact that the Grail is language?
Lazy.
What? No.
No,
Language
the
and universal and transcendent, and it is both the signified and signifier.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
that's
is-
what
that
I
is-
thought.
that is-
Okay. you can take Friday's
it's-
episode. All right.
Maybe it's one of those like Pentecost things where the Spirit comes down. You can talk all sorts of languages. It doesn't matter as long as you're in that room. You could be speaking Polish or whatever. It
That's
doesn't
Star
matter.
Trek.
Everybody can understand you.
It's the TARDIS.
I got a question. Is Indy the only one that sees the Grail Knight? Does he ever interact with Donovan and Elsa?
Wow.
Yeah.
Could Indy be hallucinating the Grail Knight?
Sure.
Like, did
Yeah, but
Donovan and
Henry is
Elsa
too.
talk
Henry
to
sees
him? No, Henry does, but that's kind of a revelation at the end. Like, maybe
Yeah.
he's taking on his son's mania, but now I can't remember. Did Donovan and Elsa ever acknowledge that the knight's there?
Huh.
Oh my God. I don't think they do.
I don't think they barely register that Indiana Jones is there. Maybe
That's
Indy's
true.
a ghost while he's
That's
in there.
true.
Well, Donovan comes in. He's like, "Which one is it?
Yeah.
Gimme."
Because there's no
Yeah.
knight. There's
She's like,
actually
"It's
no
this
knight
one."
in there. It's all in
Yeah.
Indy's mind.
Oh.
Wow.
I got to go do the whole thing over again.
There goes my brain. I think you're right, Pete. I swear to God.
That's why the knight just
I think
falls
you're-
down, because Indy can't fight himself.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gives up.
jeez.
And that's why no one notices him standing right behind Elsa when they're in the Grail Temple, because no one else sees him. He's not there.
Yeah.
No, he's got to
And
be there.
he chose poorly. That's all just Indy's imagination.
Yeah, that's why he's speaking English. Because obviously Indy doesn't know Latin. He couldn't, or he doesn't know French.
No.
He couldn't put those words in his mouth.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Well, speaking of made up people,
What Why, yes. Speaking of made-up people, all in our minds, coming over the wires. You don't have no other sister. It's my other sister.
Hey.
The big one. Yes.
Why do you keep calling her the big one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, she's not
She's
the big
actually
one. She's
regular
the eldest.
size.
Yes,
regular
she's the
size,
eldest.
She's just the old. Okay, that's
Yeah,
different.
she's the eldest. She's the
Okay.
eldest
Well, eldest
one.
and biggest are
Yeah,
completely different concepts, but all
Yeah,
right.
you give her a bope with a bope bope instead of a beep with a beep. But, it's misrepresentative.
From the Billy Goat Gruff that built her bridge out of hay.
That's a terrible
Straw.
I thought you were going to say bacon.
Built
There were a
her-
lot of bees in there.
Built her bridge out of... There you go. My fattest, chubbiest,
idea. It is not.
biggest
Honestly.
sister, Mimi Porter. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. What? Yeah, I
I
know.
hate these.
I know, Pete. You do. That's not. You'll like this one, Pete.
Sharpen your number 2 pencil, everybody.
What museum would you get lost in?
Oh.
Oh,
Told you like it, Pete.
Museum of Mirrors. That's the one I'd get lost.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
the
that's
Museum
good.
of No Signs.
Like a fun house.
Well, the Louvre is kind of big.
Yeah.
Sure.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say any museum I'm unfamiliar with, except the Guggenheim. You
fair.
can't really get lost in the Guggenheim.
That's
can you?
true.
You know, when I think about getting lost, I always think about that whole part of the Western Grand Canyon. You know what I'm talking about? It's like it's still in the park, but there's
Yeah.
like 100 miles.
You have to drive like
kind
4
of-
hours to get over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually just sort of south and east of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a ranger a few months ago, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, if you go out there, like, you know, if you disappear, like, we'll do our best."
Do our best. That's terrible.
He's like, it's actually
in the
pretty
hours.
wild out there. He's like, you could go for days or even weeks and never run into someone else.
Oh my word.
And I'm like, God, man, yeah, Grand Canyon, give it up. It's God's museum.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna
Death
make
Valley's like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a
Yeah,
little bit
it's-
like
yeah.
that.
I'm just thinking about places you get lost. If I had to think about a place,
Uh-huh.
or Mammoth Cave.
I might choose Wupatki if we're going that direction.
Aw.
The
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
ancient Native
that was one of our
American ruins.
favorite times in the world, Pete,
Yep.
wasn't it?
Yep.
We went to Wupatki.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
How
That's
about
a
the
nice
supermarket
way to
if you're a
end
kid?
it.
You didn't say all
Well, the
lost.
I was going to say if the supermarket. You know what? I went to a Walmart the other day, and I was totally lost.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I had to get Chris. Yeah,
a big
Chris,
square.
I had to get a cooler for you.
Oh, thanks, honey.
And I couldn't find anything. I was completely lost. It is a big square, but if you have to find something,
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It was the cooler grail. You couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, I still owe you money for that. Oh.
Eh.
Lots of luck with that.
I guess the answer though would be, what kind of museum do you want to spend the rest of your life at? Like, do you want a history kind of artifact museum, like the British Museum, or do you want
Yes.
art
that's
like the
yes.
Louvre, or do you want
Yeah.
like military history, or do you want like automotive history, or like Greenfield Village?
Does Crate and Barrel count as a museum?
No.
I've always wanted to live in a Crate and Barrel.
Very comfortable.
Maybe
Very
you just want to
tiny.
look at the look at the olive oil and the pretty bottles.
Actually,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do get lost in IKEAs. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
yeah, they
it's
make
not
them so
hard.
you do.
I'm not sure.
Well,
I
I
wanna
mean,
live there, though.
you're like, honey, I'm in the Farker Darken section.
You couldn't possibly be. I'm in the Farkin Darkin section.
What's your language?
All right. Well, now that we've sort of fallen
Gotten
into
lost.
Swedish, yeah, I think
Quote-
it's time to wrap this one up.
Wrapped it up. This episode's kind of sitting about 6 feet
Yeah.
under the ground in a crevice.
Yep, and no one's even poking with a stick to see if we're down.
No,
All the power's gone out of it.
we're not looking to pick this up.
Well, on that note, anything else anybody want to pick up? Anybody wants to pick up for minute 120?
No,
Nah.
we're good.
Well, this is our last full minute of movie, so I
Yeah.
guess join us next week for our final week of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Well, we're all so sick of this fucking movie.
Oh.
That's not
We
a real
just
song.
don't know what to do.
Just having fun.
I like that he's the only one singing and he's the only one laughing.
Yeah.
I'm riding out of the canyon like a
over
Comanche Indian on the side.
Christy and
Yeah.
Tom, I know the way.
Yeah,
I'm starting my own rock and roll show.
Christy, Tom, I know the way.
Follow me.
So sad.